Welcome. Today we're going to discuss hammocks and hammock camping, hammocks for hiking, whatever you want to do with a hammock actually. I'm going to try to save you a little bit of money, show you some of the things that I've evolved into, some of the gear that I use, so that way if you want to use the information I give you, you might be able to shave off a couple of purchases and move forward just really fast and easy. When you get into hammocks, there's really a couple of things that you have to have. One is a suspension in the hammock. That goes without saying. Something to hang it from the trees, the actual body of the hammock. But then if you're going to use it for camping or hiking or anything like that, the next thing you're going to need, depending on the environment you're going to be in, if you're like us in the Pacific Northwest or cold weather, potentially rainy, you'll need some kind of a tarp. From there, the next couple of things that you'll need is something to insulate you from underneath, because all your body temperature will leave bottom first, so you'll need something to insulate you, whether it be an underquilt or a foam sleeping pad of some sort, or an air mattress. Not necessarily for the comfort of the hammock, but to insulate you from the outside. The other thing that you'll need is something to keep you warm on top, whether it's a top quilt or a sleeping bag. That's up to you. Myself, I use a down comforter on top and an air mattress underneath. I am exploring some options with under quilts, but I haven't settled in on one that I really like. The fit and everything else, they can get very pricey in a hurry. So if you want to explore under quilts, great. I think that they're probably a great option. I just haven't invested money in a really nice one yet, so I can't offer you any advice on that. When it does come, since we're right here real quick, I'll tell you a couple of things. As far as air mattresses that I'm using, I do recommend getting the Big Agnes air mattress, and I forget what the name of it. It's a Q-core. It's not the extra long one. I'm a regular sized guy. Height-wise, a little more than regular, wide-wise, but the Q-core by Big Agnes is a great option for the hammock camping and putting into your hammock. So, but the first thing I'm going to talk about that we're going to go over is your tarp, how to hang your tarp, and it's pretty simple. You suspend a line. I use a ridge line, but through this I found a couple of knots that I really like, and I'm going to share those with you. That makes setting my tarp up fast and easy, and I'm just going to use the ridge line material to set it up, and then I'll go ahead and put my hammock up without the tarp over it. But I'm going to explain how it all works, and I'll put the tarp on and explain how I set that up also. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you the knots I use for hanging a ridge line, and so that'll be the next thing. We're going to get into the timber hitch, and that's a super fast, easy knot. It's one where you just go around the tree, come back over your main line, throw some loops over it, and it'll pull tight. So just a second, we'll get it a little bit tighter and get started hanging the ridge line. Okay, so the first thing you do, just take your cordage, whatever it is, throw it around your tree. The next thing you'll do is you'll adjust it height-wise, just raise it up a little bit higher. I'm just going to work on it at this height just for the sake of this video. But the timber hitch, all you do is you come back over, you take your two lines after they've went over, you come back this way, back onto your line, and you go around it a handful of times, whatever you feel is adequate. So I do it a few times, not a big deal. Now you can leave a tag in there. That's a little bit, I didn't put enough in apparently. There we go. Now, no matter how hard I pull on this, it's not going to come down. So when I get ready to break it down, all I gotta do is release the tension, and as long as tension's on it, it'll compress on itself and we won't have anything give away. So now imagine that there's a tarp tied off in here, and I'll show you how I do that. But the other end of the whole thing, you need a different type of knot, so you can keep tension on it. And if there was my tarp's always, the ridge line is always attached to the tarp, so like I said, this is for demonstration's sake, and you never know how wide your trees are going to be apart or how big they are. Case in point, look how dinky this one is compared to that one. That one was a monster. So now we're going to work on this one. And what I do on this side is I will put a slip knot in. So the first knot I put is, my tarp say ends here, I'll put a slip knot right here, like so. Now if your slip knot, if the loose end, the adjustable end goes on around your tree, you're going to be okay. But if your adjustable end goes back this way, it won't work, because what will happen is your knot will collapse on itself and shrink, and you won't be able to tighten anything up. But if it collapses on the end that you're going to go ahead and work with, it's pretty cool. So all you do is you come back around, and if you want, you can pull that all the way through, pull the rest of your cordage all the way through. And if you don't have a big old mess on the end of it like I do, you'll wind up with something like this. It's called a trucker's hitch once you do that, because what you do is you take this and you just cinch down on it like so. You have leverage, and so you can pull, and that tightens this thing up to where it's pretty ding dang tight. Come on around here. Yes. Come around here and get this. So from a different angle, you can see this is my slip knot that I just tied. This is the slack end coming through, and all you do is you tighten it up like that. Okay, now the next step is you can just hold this right here to keep the tension on it. Then you go through and over and pull it, and now all you got to do is pull on the loose end, and your knot comes loose, just like so. So you just leave that open, you come through the loop there, so it's just going over and pulling through, just like so. Okay, then you can cinch it up. Once again, it's just another slip knot. Okay, now if you're worried that that's going to come loose, give yourself enough slack so you can come over and you can feed it through. Now what I do, you can see how that goes now. This is just the extra slack. You can see that it just goes over and then comes through. But what I do is I go ahead and tuck that one back through like that. So the thing like that. Now you have two knots right there, and both of them, this one, when you pull on this, that's going to pull out, break free. Same way with the other slack. It all breaks perfectly free. Okay, so now we have the main ridge line attached, and I leave all this stuff together. The ridge line is always attached to my tarp, and my the pieces of cordage that I use to hook my tarp to the ridge line is always attached. What I do, and this is for making adjustments, is I just take a couple of pieces of cordage and I put prusik knots in. How the prusik works is basically, if you just did this, that's almost a prusik, and for most cases that would probably work for the knot that I'm gonna for holding my tarp in place. But I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna go over in the middle one more time, and that is a prusik knot right there. Now the cool thing about this knot is it's adjustable, but it won't give. So I tie my tarp to one of these tag ends like this, and it will not give. It's just super strong. But then if I want to slide it down, and this is what happens when your cord is longer, your trees are further apart and closer, you throw your cord up and it's too close on one side or the other, you can just go like this and move your tarp. But then, once it's there, it won't move. Beautiful knot. All I do is tie this to one of the loops on my tarp, tie a tag into one of the loops on my tarp, you're all set. Got that? Prusik. I'm going to tie one more just for giggles and grin. Show you how this works. You just go over, pull those through like that, go all the way around again, pull them through again, dress your knot like so. Just pull it so it's all clean. There you go. Prusik. Won't let go. It'll grip, but yet you can slide it along there just like that. Okay, now I'm going to show you how easy these knots are to pull down. All I'm going to do is tear the cordage down that I just set up. It's pretending like my tarp is on it. All you do, like I said, take this tail. It works this right here. You can see how it slips, but that knot's not coming out. Just go like that. First part's done. Then you grab this, pull that. Second part's done. Okay. Now all you gotta do is take your knot out. Just slip your cordage through that loop you left in there for the trucker's hitch. Bang. That's all done. Come through. Now that knot's all taken out. Come on over. Take your timber hitch. There really aren't any knots to undo really per se. That's how fast it is to take down. Now speed isn't, I've never raced anybody setting my tarps or my hammocks up, but sometimes people waiting on you kind of sucks. So I like to be as fast as I can and efficient with these type of things as I can, just out of consideration for other people, because I like to sit around and talk and BS and everything else like that. And the more time, the faster I can be tearing my camp down, the more I can stand around and shoot the breeze with somebody. I'm going to show you a really quick little extra tidbit for keeping your cordage all organized and together. All I do is I just wrap it around my hand like this, and this works on both ends of your tarp line. Also, there's my Prusiks that I put in earlier, that I use for demonstration. And so I'll just go like that, and I'll leave about that much off. Take that off my hand, and then just start doing this kind of a simple conniption on it. Just kind of make sure you can get your cord through there though. And then all you got to do is I just leave this tag end out here, and this is not all that. You just pull that through, tuck it over itself like that. Then it's easy to carry around, pull apart. If I didn't have those two Prusiks on there, it'd look a lot better. There, see, that's how it'd look like. Just throw that in the bag. Got a bunch of cordage ready to go. Okay, next step, I'm going to show you how I set up my hammock. So now we're going to talk about suspension. If you're going with just a big old cable type of a hammock in your front yard, just carrying chains or whatever, hooking those to a couple trees, that would work. I've yet to see somebody hiking through the woods that wants an extra 5 pounds of chain to suspend their hammock or anything else. In fact, I don't know of anybody that I've ever seen carrying chain in the woods. It's if they're hiking. In the back of trucks, yes. Hiking, no. So most of what I'm talking about is in an effort to lighten your load, but still give you all the adequate equipment for hiking, camping, and taking all your gear with you and having an enjoyable time hammock camping. So what I have done is I have home built our suspension straps. It's a 1-inch nylon webbing that you can get at REI or any other hiking camping store that specializes in rock climbers gear. That's mainly what this suspension strapping is the 1-inch webbing that rock climbers use. So I use it 2 different ways. If I'm car camping or something, I'll typically have a carabiner on the strap like this. If I'm hiking, I won't. And I'll show you the big difference in why that is. And it all has to do with speed and weight. So if I'm just going hiking and I want to dump some weight, those carabiners are one of the things that I'm going to get rid of. I won't need them. But if I'm just going to go car camping, they're great to have. They're a little bit faster. And all the time that I'm talking about is this amount of time right here. Carabiner will help me eliminate the time I'm taking to pull this strap through like this, because I can just drop it over. I'm going to show you something else that that when you don't have the carabiner that I use. So come on in here and I'll show you the knot I use. So I just hung my strap around the tree. See how it has a loop? It has it's sewn. If you want to look at that pattern to make your own, great. Simple cheap thread is all I use. Just tied it down, and I'm over 300 pounds, so most of you that hike and stuff are gonna have an easy time with it. Now for hanging my hammock, I'm going to show you a knot that I use, and it goes like this. So coming around this way so you can see what I'm doing. All I'm doing is after the straps come through is I'll take and I'll do something like this. Pretty simple. Just have the line. It's super simple. Then you fold it up and grab that, pull it through. Okay. And this is one of the ways that I set mine up. If I don't take my carabiners, this is the way this knot goes. Okay, that's super tight. Now the thing that I'm going to show you when I hang my hammock on this is you want the strap or the cord or whatever you hook your hammock to be back here. You don't want it pulling on this toggle, which is just a stick in the woods. Okay, but I'm gonna call it a toggle just for giggles. You want it back here so that it pulls on this knot. If it's pulling on that knot, you won't fall. If it pulls on this, it'll break your stick and you will fall. Even little guys will do that. Okay, so that's one way to set it up. Okay, let's go on over to this other side. Okay, once again, this is a far bigger tree. I've been on outings where the trees were so big that the commercial straps that the company sell wouldn't go around them. So that's why I built these, so that I'd make sure that I have enough strap to get between different trees. And maybe it's a little bit of overkill, but you can use rope. Who cares? There's really no rules, but at the same time, this is just what I use. It saved me some money putting these together versus buying the commercial straps. And see how much faster that was than threading it through there? That's why I'll do that on a car camping trip. Won't do it on a backpacking trip, but on a car camping trip, beautiful. We'll just go ahead and start over here on this side, and I'll show you the no bones way, basically the lightest way I found to set this up. ENOs come with a carabiner, so if you want to use the carabiner that comes right there, that's all you got to do. But make sure that your carabiner catches back here on the knot and that it doesn't fall forward. If you want to lighten this up and you don't bring any carabiners, even the ones that come with the ENO, it's not a big deal. I do leave these on most of the time. What I was trying to say is you can just hook your strap right there. See how that bites into the knot? That will not come loose. I'm going to raise this up just a little bit because I like to keep my hammock off the ground when I'm laying in it. So I'll leave that like that. Oops, too short. The beauty of putting the toggle in like this is that knot is super simple to take apart. What do you think of that? Here, we'll go through it again. Here's how this knot goes. Come to about like that. Just cross over, reach through, grab your strap, stick your toggle through. Right like that. Next thing you're gonna do, make sure your toggle's not messing with you too much. Make sure you stay on the knot. Right like that. That won't come apart. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you how I typically do this, because I do bring these carabiners with me that come on the hammock. I'll do the same type of a knot, but this time instead of putting the toggle through, I'll just put the carabiner through. And I'm going to cinch that up, and I will let that tighten down like that. Now this is a little bit more of a bear to get apart because it tightens down on itself. So that's two different ways that I set this up, using two carabiners. You can, any combination of what I just did works, you know. So you just get to knock yourself out. At this point, your hammock's pretty well set up. Next thing I'm going to talk about, I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about this, is pads, sleeping pads, air mattresses, whatever you want to call them. This is one of the two options for keeping you warm. If you're going to be in a location, South America or something, where the weather's going to stay above 70 or 80 at night, you don't need this. But if you're going to go hiking, camping, Pacific Northwest, northern United States, you're going to need something to keep all of your heat from falling through the bottom of your hammock. There's two ways of accomplishing this. I use an sleeping pad. I am exploring underquilts, and what an underquilt is basically something that when you're in here, it's basically a sleeping bag for going underneath your hammock and keeping all the insulation and all your body heat inside your hammock or against you. The sleeping pad does the exact same thing. I've been in temperatures down into the high teens, mid-20s on several occasions, and stayed very warm just using a sleeping pad. The sleeping pad I used in most of those adventures was one of the light speeds from Costco. It works very well. My big problem with that, and I'll probably let other people use it when we go car camping or something like that, it's just big, and that's the problem I had with it. It's big, it's heavy, it hangs out too wide. It's a good investment for the 30 bucks that it cost. But I got this Q core, has a higher R value, so I know it's going to keep me at least as warm as the light speed that I was using. Packs down super small, weighs a lot less. This thing is only 2 pounds 3/4 of an ounce, and I love it to death. It's quite a bit more than the one from Costco, and I'm not going to go into pulling the whole thing out, blowing it up, and showing you how the whole thing goes in. The gist of it is you throw it in there, you square it up and get in your hammock on top of it, and then throw your quilt or whatever on top of you, and you're set for the night. You'll stay warm, and the temperatures down into the 20s easy. Mid-20s, not a problem. Like I said, I've been in it down into the teens and stayed totally warm. All I use for a top quilt is a down comforter. I don't even use a high quality sleeping bag or anything. I have a down comforter that I loft on top of me, and I'm usually very toasty. So taking some of the other precautions for staying warm, also, dry socks, a hat, things like that, but nothing excessive. So bug nets, that's something else that's why I keep that ridge line on my tarp, and I like having my tarp that way, is I do have a bug net that it's a DIY bug net. I think you can probably see a great example is That Cheap Bastard on YouTube. He has a YouTube channel that if you hop on YouTube and Google Cheap Bastard, you'll find bug net. I believe he has one that he uses with his system. That's a DIY. He has a bunch of DIY stuff that's really cool. So shout out to you, cheap bastard. So I just hang that from my ridge line on my tarp, and that'll be the next thing I show you. I'm gonna set my tarp up and dive into that. And okay, so I went ahead and hung up the tarp for the most part. I've strung it on the ridge line. The knots are exactly like I showed you. I have a timber hitch right there where it goes around the tree, goes back, twirls around itself. I have a taut line right here, or not a taut line, excuse me, a prusik knot, just like I have one on this side. I have another one right here, that's for adjusting it. Then I come over, there's a slip knot here, it goes around the tree, comes back, has two more slippery knots, and that's how my tarp is set up. Now check this out. This is why I do those prusiks. See, if I want to, if my hammock or if my tarp is in the wrong place, I just move it in that far, come over here to this side, and I can go like this. And now that side is not going to release. It's just going to hang on to it. And I have a lot of slack. You never know how far apart your trees are going to be, how much of the line I'm going to use on one side. Sure, you can balance it out. The other thing, but this just works out really well for me. The other thing is what I was talking about earlier is I leave my ridge line set up all the time. Right here's my ridge line. It runs through the center of the hammock, or the tarp, excuse me, and I keep it straight in line with my hammock, and then I can hang things off of it. If I want to hang some lights off of it at night, hang a knife, or usually I don't hang a knife off of it, but I do sometimes put gear up there, and my bug net. You know, it's just a great place to hang things from. And the other thing that's really cool about it is, even though I pull this tight and I keep my tarp pretty snug, what I do to set it up initially is I'll take the prusik knot that's up here and I'll set it a couple inches away from my carabiner, or the end of my strap on this side, and then I'll come over. Once that's centered there, all I have to do is come to the other side. I'm a little bit off. Right there is where I'm going to want it, maybe right there. There I go. I came in too tight on this side. There I go. My tarp is pretty ding-dang centered. I will not get wet this way. I did come in. Let me center that a little bit more. But see how easy adjusting it is? Piece of cake. Tarp goes from side to side. The ridge line's centered. Now all you gotta do is take my tarp, go like this, guy it out. I leave my guy lines on all the time. They never come off. This thing's pretty well set up, easy setup. It takes me 5-10 minutes to have my whole camp set up. And I'm gonna go ahead and guy this out, and then I'll check back in with you real quick. Cut. Okay, so here's the final result. We have a hammock. We have it set up in semi-porch mode. Pretty much ready to go to sleep. But here's what's beautiful about this more than anything else. One, I have head height galore. I can set this up as high as I want. I generally go about this high so that everything's pretty close on my ridge line, close to the hammock. But it's not too much of a cramp for me to bend over just a little bit. Don't get that with most tents that weigh under 5 pounds like this whole setup does. Well, maybe just a little over 5 pounds. But the other thing that's really pretty and super cool about this is my tarp is the last thing I take down, especially if it's raining. This is the very last thing I put into a bag or collapse. I can keep it open and collect all my gear, stay underneath it, have breakfast, whatever, have all my gear sitting beside me, sit there as long as I want, and then at the last minute pull my tarp down, put it in my bag, and I'm walking. That's not something you can do with a tent. With a tent, you take the rain fly off, you take the tent apart, and then you roll it up and put it in your bag. Everything else has to be outside of the tent before you start tearing down. With this, your tarp's the last thing to come down. So if it's raining, I can go ahead and clean up and get my gear ready to exit, and I'm not getting soaked while I'm doing it. I just have to grab my tarp, stuff it on the outside of my bag. It can dry while I'm hiking or whatever. Beautiful system. When I first got into this, my initial thought was, what's the worst case scenario? If I wind up not liking hammock camping, big deal. I'll have a hammock that I can take with me and we can lounge around in during the day. Something I have never heard somebody say when they lay in a hammock is that they don't like it. I can imagine some people not liking the idea of laying like a banana, but that's why you lay diagonal like this in a hammock. Helps keep you pretty flat, and I get some of the best sleep I've ever had sleeping in a hammock. It's so relaxing. It's a beautiful thing to do. Get one, try it out, have a good time, and if you have any questions or comments, if you found something you do or don't like, please don't hesitate to give me a ring. You know, just get a hold of me, give me some feedback either on Facebook or on YouTube on my channel, and looking forward to seeing you on the trail. Enjoy. I think I'm gonna take a break.